Hey guys, welcome to the workshop. So in today's video, I'm going to show you my process at making a sign for my dad that would hold his keys to his RV, his house, basically anything. Let's jump right into it. So I began with a piece of oak and I wanted to cut it basically just about 7 by 4 inches. I felt like that was a pretty good size for a sign of this caliber. So the way that I like to do my signs is I like to pick a font that's relatively bold, something that's not too stringy and thin that I can't carve properly with my Dremel tool. And so I choose a nice looking font that's just a little bold and print it out on the computer. Now with everything printed out, oh, wrong board, let's switch it out. Yes, I ended up switching to a piece of pine because I think the oak would just be a little too hard to carve with the Dremel. So now I take the piece of paper, cut it down to the size, just enough so that I don't have too much paper glued to the board, and then I use some spray adhesive to attach it to the board. Now using my Dremel tool, a different couple options. I like to just sit down, put my headphones on, listen to music, and just carve away. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break here and mention something. I just messed up. You saw me just run this through the planer, and unfortunately, I went a little too deep, and we've lost some of the letters. So the reason why I was doing that was because the black spray paint that I used ended up soaking into this wood. Obviously, I used a softwood. It's pine. Didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Run it through the planer, get rid of it, but I didn't go deep enough. So after some thought, I've decided to just redo this completely. So I'm not going to go and re-record everything to show you because it's the same exact process. The only thing I'm going to do is switch out the board with a piece of Spalted Ash. It's a harder wood. I've actually used walnut before for a sign like this I made for Life in Farmland, and it turned out perfectly fine. So I figured using ash is going to be pretty much the same. And I like some of the spalting configuration that's on that board, so I'm going to pick the best spot, trace out letters again, carve them out again, and then I'm going to pick this part right back up after we get to this point with the Spalted Ash. So after 3 tries with 3 different pieces of wood, I finally have it ready to go. Just wanted to take some 220 grit sandpaper, smooth it down a little bit, chamfer the edges with my hand plane to make sure it has a nice feel when you touch it and hold it. And then it was time to cover it up. Now I started with the spray polyurethane and it just did not look the way I wanted it to look. So I switched to my favorite, polyacrylic. And this stuff I like to lather it on real thick, sanding in between the coats with 220 grit to make sure this thing gets smooth. And when I applied this, I wanted to make sure that the letters were covered very deeply so that when it dried it gave a nice gloss to the embedded letters in the piece of wood. So in these days, nothing is complete without my branding iron that my lovely wife got me one time for Christmas. It's a really cool way to leave your mark on everything you make. So being that this was going to be mounted potentially in an RV, I want to make sure that it's really secure to the wall. So I decided to do 2 keyholes so that you could put the screws into the wall, slide this thing on there, and it should lock right into place. So now it's time to mount the 3 key ring holders that are going to be on this. My wife found these key ring holders at Hobby Lobby and they are perfect for this application. But they screw into the wood. So to do that I just needed to drill a 1/8 inch hole. And for that I used my Montana brand drill bits. They are phenomenal. If you want to pick up some of these, there is a link in the description to this page. And if you use my coupon code CW77, you will save 10% at your checkout. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the video and for this project. And you know, there's a lot of stuff in this video that normally I would exclude, but I wanted to include my mess ups because, you know, it's really something I wanted to get across, that even though you're making something really simple, it's okay if you mess up. You know, I ended up using 3 different boards finally by the time I got to the finished one that I ended up using. And then as I did the keyhole, it got off and it looked horrible. So I had to reposition and redo a new one so that they would be level. You know, these things happen, and you know, it's just a good testament that nobody's perfect. You always make mistakes, but the important thing is to get up and keep trying. So that's what I want to leave you with at the end of this video. If you fail at a project, get up and keep going, even if it requires you to completely start over like I did. Sometimes those things happen. But guys, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time in the workshop, and have a blessed day.